Coming up on the CHGO Cubs podcast, say it ain't so, Seiya. Is he salty? He still wants to be an outfielder. Will it be with the Cubs, or are they trading him for Tucker? Oh, I love that rumor. Plus, free to the Yankees. Who wants Arenado? Wild Thought Wednesday, bubbling over. Next. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It is the CHGO Cubs podcast. It is Wednesday, December 11th. That makes it a Wild Thought Wednesday, and it's off and running on day 3 of baseball's winter meetings in Dallas. Our Ryan Herrera is there. He's going to join us during the show. He does already know that at some point Jed Hoyer is going to talk early afternoon in Dallas, so we'll find out about that. We'll talk to Ryan, find out the latest. We've got the buzz brewing from the Ken Rosenthal tweet this morning. We've got the buzz that was already building from last night's comments from Seiya Suzuki's agent, and we've got reaction from the Cubs. We've got one of the top pitchers that we talked about, Cody, now going to the Yankees. We've got a division rival that's willing to part with one of their stars. You name it, we got it. Wild Thought Wednesday, off and running.
Ooh, Wild Thought Wednesday. Let the Delulu flow through my veins for 2 straight days, Luke.
Let's go.
For 2 straight days, let the Delulu fall.
Feed
flow.
me with misinformation.
I am incredibly ready to be hurt again by the Chicago Cubs in their front office. We'll see what happens, but
Cody's just sitting there. Inject me with misinformation and rumors.
All I can say is that I was very, very tired this morning. I didn't get home from Champaign until 2 a.m.
Uh-oh.
And I was up at 8 a.m. So I needed the jolt of energy from Ken Rosenthal, apparently.
Yeah.
And, yeah, man, we're going to talk all about it. But all I can say is that I'm so used to being I'm so used to being interest kings that, like, I'm not ready to buy in on all of this yet, but I don't know how you can sit here and not be intrigued or like a little jolted this morning with this. So everyone heard what we said about Kyle Tucker yesterday. I'd give up any outfield prospect for him. I'd give up, in Ken
even though it
tweet,
could be a 1-year rental.
Even though it could. You need to make a big swing. And I like I said yesterday, if you're Jed Hoyer, and we talk about Jed Hoyer being risk averse all the time, if he actually does this, I don't think he's dumb enough to do this and not know that he has to get that deal done at some point over the next year after it's done. So,
don't underestimate the stupidity of one of our Chicago sports teams.
Hey now.
They'll always come back to surprise you.
Well, at least Jed Hoyer has been part of a World Series winning organization in the last 10 years.
That is true.
And I'm someone who has definitely criticized Jed plenty, all right? But I think in this instance, he deserves the benefit of the doubt if he actually gets it done. Am I wrong, though? Like, we sit here and we say, oh, Jed sits on his hands. Oh, Jed can't get he doesn't have the cojones to make the big move. If he actually does it, I don't think it's in a way to save his job. I think it's something that's been talked about within their organization in terms of, like, will we get that extension done for Kyle Tucker? I think if they make the trade, they will do everything they can to do it, because Jed is shown to be so risk averse that he hasn't done it with anyone else. If he actually did it, if he actually make this trade for a player of Kyle Tucker's caliber, I think they would get it done. Maybe not this offseason, but it'd be speculation all next season, I think. But I think they would go into next winter, and they would be one of the top contenders for sure to re-sign him.
Our guy Shane Newbanks in the live YouTube chat says, let's get sick sickos. And he said he'd take everything he ever said about Jed Hoyer back if he can get Kyle Tucker. Okay, here's first of all, here's the Rosenthal tweet and an article that goes with it if you're looking for it on Twitter. Preliminary Kyle Tucker trade talks between the Astros and Cubs involve both Isaac Paredes and Seiya Suzuki. That's according to him and Chandler Rome. Now, also, if you go in and read further into it, there also is information from him saying that Cam Smith, the first-round draft pick, whose grandmother loved the Cubs, could be a third baseman in the future. Is he Florida State?
Yeah,
I believe Florida State. Could also be a name they're tossing around. I saw Gary in there say, Gary Ross was saying, listen, I'm okay with Paredes and Seiya. Please don't include Cam Smith. My hesitation in that is we're not in the conversations, right? But there's so many layers to a possible trade for Kyle Tucker right now, and there's enough smoke that there's certainly something going on, right? We know that much. But, like, first of all, you have Seiya's no trade clause, which we can talk about. Second of all, you have Seiya wanting to play outfield, and it seems like kind of trying to call out the Cubs on it a little bit yesterday.
I don't know about that.
Well, I don't like the way it sounded. And then
just feeding into all those guys at ESPN.
Then I have if they were to, I don't know that the trade is all three, right? Like, we're not sitting there saying it is Paredes, it is Seiya. We've heard that part. But when you hear Cam Smith, is that included in, or is that instead of Paredes, right? Because if you were to put Paredes in there and Cam Smith, well, then you better be real sure that Matt Shaw is going to be playing third base and good at it.
Yeah.
Because what's your other option at that point?
Right. Well, noted hater in the chat, William Workman says that I said that I would trade Seiya Suzuki for 1 year of Kyle Tucker. I never said that. I never said that at all. I said I would trade any outfield prospect that the Cubs have
that is what you
for Kyle Tucker. Yeah, I absolutely would.
I'm here to say that I would give up Seiya Suzuki for 1 year of Kyle Tucker.
So you're unbelievably dumb because that's what he called me.
I'm all for it.
So congrats on being unbelievably dumb.
Seiya's only got 2 years left at $38 million. Okay? Kyle Tucker's going to make 16 or 17 next year, even if he walks.
I personally, I don't think it makes sense for the Cubs if they include Seiya in the deal for Kyle Tucker, unless you're keeping Bellinger.
Well,
I'm operating in my head that they're still going to trade Bellinger.
So I was thinking, that's again when we're talking about the layers of this. Where does this even really go? In my mind, if they trade Seiya, then I think Belly's here. That's how I would. If you're really going to be serious, if you're going to take a flyer on Kyle Tucker for maybe 1 year, hopefully longer, right?
Yeah.
Then why would you unload someone like Bellinger? Because you've just unloaded $38 million worth of Seiya, and you're getting the cheaper deal on what's left of Tucker's arbitration this year, which would save you some money there, but it just gives you a different mix of guys.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, that's kind of what we said is it's not like on paper you're getting 5 superstars for one. It's not some unbelievable deal, but it's just shuffling the deck. That's all I really want.
Yeah.
Shuffle the deck for me next year so I'm not seeing the same names at the same spots, striking out in the same positions in the lineup and key positions. That's what I don't want to see. Just give me a different guy striking out in the same spot. That's all I want.
Paredes makes a lot of sense because I think his bat fits well in Minute Maid Park with those
and
Crawford
they may lose
boxes.
Bregman. That's what they're thinking.
And they might lose Bregman.
They'll likely lose Bregman.
They'll likely lose him, it looks like. Especially since the smoke of this trade seems very big. So I think a lot of fans are completely fine with Paredes going. And to me, if you're able to turn Paredes, or I guess the way I view it, Christopher Morel, if you're able to turn Christopher Morel into Kyle Tucker, that is a massive W for this front office, in my opinion. Now, Cam Smith, I would include Cam Smith if you're not including Seiya. I would not include Paredes, Seiya, and Cam Smith. And if you do that, then I'm expecting more than just Kyle Tucker coming back. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And we've seen some of those kind of floated around, and you would assume the Cubs and Astros have many variations of this trade.
But to me, I still think they might be into Bellinger too.
Right. Could be Bellinger instead of Seiya.
And would I do Paredes, Bellinger, and Cam Smith? Well, the thing is I personally wouldn't, but the Cubs might have to because the money that's on Bellinger's contract, and that lowers the value. So to me, if it was up to me, Paredes, Casey, or Alcantara, and I think I could come to terms with Cam Smith, perhaps, and maybe you can get another player in there with Tucker. But I for sure Paredes and then Casey or Alcantara for sure, and then maybe we'll see what else works out. I don't know, man. Like I'm not in those meetings. I'm just stating that I personally don't want to trade Seiya Suzuki for 1 year, potentially only 1 year of Kyle Tucker. Potentially. I truly believe if they make the trade, they will pay him. I truly believe that
they'll pay Tucker
because they've been the biggest interest kings the last 5 years of my life, Luke. And if they actually make a move like this, I think they'd go all in to make sure that they don't regret just getting 1 year. I really do think that they would. There's no evidence that shows that they would in terms of the money. We've talked about it at ends about the money, but I just think Jed is so risk averse that he wouldn't make a move like this if he doesn't think that they would do whatever it takes to re-sign him. So that's how I'm basing my thought process on. I wouldn't trade Seiya Suzuki for him. I don't think Seiya Suzuki's going to be traded. I think all of the things that his agent said, none of it makes sense to me because the Cubs gave Seiya Suzuki plenty of chances to play right field. Plenty. The Cubs have done everything.
We're going to get to that.
The Cubs have done everything right for Seiya Suzuki. They've given him every opportunity to play right field. I don't understand why that came out, other than it's some sort of thing that has to do with leverage of a potential trade, right? But, and again, like you just said, we'll get to it. But as far as a potential trade for Kyle Tucker, I said this in a Twitter space I was doing yesterday. Like, we as fans, we just got to accept that no matter what happens, you just got to accept that you're going to feel uncomfortable. If they're not going to spend money, if they're not going to just hand out wheelbarrows of cash to the free agents, then you have to get uncomfortable on the trade market. As we've already seen with some moves, like you're likely not going to fleece a team. You're likely not, unless there's a guy out there that some team just doesn't want and they want to unload the contract for salary relief, like the Cardinals with Nolan Arenado. But I don't think the Cardinals would do that with the Cubs. But that's like an example. But like, I don't see anyone feeling incredible about the trade in the moment. And
I would.
Unless you're thinking about just the potential of what Kyle Tucker can bring in the team. At the end of the day, me and you both sit here and we're like, we cannot run the same team back. And if they're not going to spend money, then how are you going to shake up the roster? How are you going to make the team better? Kyle Tucker makes the team better. And I just think that if they actually make that trade, they would do whatever it takes to get that contract extension. I truly believe it if they actually did it, because they haven't made a move like that in this era.
Is he exponentially better than Seiya Suzuki as a hitter? No, Seiya's been a good hitter too. Is he better? Yes.
Yeah.
Is he left-handed? Yes.
Yes.
Is 2 years of Paredes and Seiya worth 1 year even of Tucker? I'm telling you, and for me personally, yes. I just want my heart to beat again.
Yeah.
I just want to feel a pulse on this team. That's all I want to see is a dit, 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 dit. That's all I want out of this team.
Yeah.
Right? And just show me a move that gets me at least interested, something to talk about for a couple months.
And obviously, if they make a trade for Kyle Tucker, they can't just stop and be done.
No.
They still have to add pitching. And I assume to me, Bellinger being traded is inevitable at this point. I know last week I said that I don't think he'd be traded because I didn't believe in the smoke. And now we've been here at the winter meetings and it's been the big talk. So to me, it feels inevitable. So of course, if you make a trade for Tucker, you can't just be done. They got to keep going and add some bullpen help, get another starting pitcher in that rotation, right?
Yep.
So it's just all part of the process. I understand it's uncomfortable. I know a lot of people like Cam Smith. I know a lot of people like Owen Casey. But, man, like, we just cannot run the same team back, man. We just can't. So
we're going to talk more about Seiya, Tucker, Seiya wanting to play the outfield, all that stuff coming up in a second. But first, we are sponsored by Chicago Sports Network, the new home of the Blackhawks, Bulls, and White Sox games. CHSN will broadcast more than 300 live games per year across the Blackhawks, Bulls, and White Sox. They're going to feature and do feature a full lineup of original Chicago-focused sports content. They're Chicago-based, Chicago-built, and Chicago to the core, bringing it to every corner of Chicago across 77 neighborhoods and beyond. At CHSN, Chicago comes first. Visit chsn.com for more information on how to watch the Bulls, the Blackhawks, and the White Sox games this season.
Oh, man, I had some blue moons last night.
Yeah, I bet you did.
I had to, just the anxiety that this week has given me. I had to have some blue moons to, settle me down a little bit. Some beers can say they're brewed for baseball, but only Blue Moon is brewed by baseball. Beer and baseball just go together, and no beer goes better than one that was literally born in a ballpark. Blue Moon was created at Coors Field in Denver, Colorado. Blue Moon isn't just another beer. It's a whole different experience. Why strike out with the same old beer when you can get something one of a kind? A beer this good only comes around once in a blue moon, but you can enjoy it all season long. Bring the ballpark to you with Blue Moon Belgian-style wheat ale. It's one of a kind every time. Get Blue Moon delivered by visiting get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO to see your delivery options. That's get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO. Blue Moon, made brighter. Celebrate responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Well, thank you very much.
It tasted so good after watching Illinois win last night, too.
Yeah. Did you hit Cam's? Is Cam still a place down there?
It's still a place, yeah.
Still
but I did not go there.
C.O. Daniels is gone, though, right?
I'm not
sure. You don't know C.O. Daniels? Never heard of Cam's is still a place, though. I believe Ryan Herrera is ready to join us early because Jed Hoyer is ready to talk fairly soon. Ryan, can you hear us all right?
He's in a flannel.
I got you. I heard. I think Clyde's closed down in Champaign, didn't it?
It did. Yeah.
So that's closed too.
Yeah, a while back, I believe. Yeah.
Ryan, you're at a different time because Jed Hoyer's at a different time, correct? What's going on down there?
Yeah. Well, Jed Hoyer's coming up. I think like Rule 5 draft is happening somewhat soon, and then teams start getting out of here. So getting Jed one last time before everyone takes off, but it's a lot of. Nothing official move-wise has happened for the Cubs so far this winter meetings, but the names popping up in all the rumors, Seiya Suzuki's agent is talking yesterday about Seiya potentially being willing to waive his no-trade clause. Today Scott Boras is talking about Cody Bellinger and his situation. So a lot going down, but yeah, we're getting Jed here soon, so I want to make sure I was able to hop on with you guys.
Well, and it sounds like Jed Hoyer's might not be completing any deals yet, which is the most important part. Just like, reservation's nice, but you have to have the vehicle when you get there. We want him to get the deal done, but it sounds like he is busy. The Ken Rosenthal thing has injected some energy into the studios here. The possibility that he said preliminary talks with the Astros have, Paredes and Seiya, who was mentioned yesterday, as initial pieces for Kyle Tucker for a year. Listen, I don't know if the deal's going to get done, but would you agree that this at least is the type of stuff that we were talking about where I said, go out and surprise us, be bold. Like, so far, I can't agree. I think yesterday we left here thinking, well, we might have a direction. We went there with you hoping we'd find a direction for this team moving forward. I don't know if we have a direction yet, but can we at least have something that's going to give us a blip on the EKG? This sounds like that, right?
Yeah, no, I like you said, like that is kind of what we've been talking about, is making bold moves, making creative moves. Like, he said it the other day that a trade is like is a way to give the offense or the everyday position player group a different look. It was probably going to have to come via trade. That's something we said, over the last few weeks since all season started. That's something we've expected. And so, yeah, this is kind of move that we've been looking at as like, the kind of move Jed Hoyer has to make to change up the offense, to get things rolling, to give it a different look at the very least, right? Like, I mean, Seiya's a really good player. He's a really good hitter. I think I looked at it since he debuted. There's only 25 qualified players in baseball with a higher WRC plus than him. Like, he's been a good player, a really good player, a really good hitter for the Cubs since he debuted. But Kyle Tucker, I know he missed a lot of time, but when he was on the field last year and when he's been on the field with the Astros, like, he's been a really good hitter. So, like, this is the kind of boldness that we've been waiting to see out of Jed. I think we probably would have, it would have been easier to be a little bold and sign some big free agents. They didn't want to go down that route. But this is another way that you could see some boldness come from Jed Hoyer and trying to improve this ball club.
To shake up the conversation a little bit, Andres Jimenez was traded by the Guardians yesterday. And it's got me intrigued now on, could the Guardians and the Cubs just continue to make more trades, with them perhaps needing a second baseman? And we've talked about Nico Hoerner a lot. Josh Naylor is a name that we've talked about a lot. Obviously, Carter Hawkins loves the pitchers in Cleveland. What are your thoughts on a potential, the potential of something coming through with that at all, I guess?
Sorry, someone was about to yell at me to get off to leave where I'm at. Sorry,
was it
repeat
Jed?
The end of your question. It wasn't Jed. Repeat the end of your question.
I'm just curious on your thoughts on the potential of the Cubs and Guardians maybe completing another trade like they did earlier this offseason.
With Jimenez, does that spark?
With Jimenez, yeah,
Nico.
with Jimenez being traded to the Blue Jays.
Well, I mean, my thoughts. I mean, that's. I guess that way, in a sense, it opens up another potential partner for the Cubs to talk a Nico Hoerner trade with, right? Like, I'm still under the impression that they're not desperate to trade Nico. I think that kind of goes for all the guys that we're seeing in trade rumors, not necessarily desperate to get rid of them. Maybe they're shopping them around a little bit or calling teams, or teams are calling them, whatever. But I don't think they're necessarily desperate to get rid of the guys on this roster, and that would go for Nico. But it does open up a potential partner for Jed to try to make something happen, right? Nico Hoerner is a guy that we've looked at as a pretty easy trade candidate for the Cubs because of the contract. Doesn't have a no trade clause. He's a good player, a really good defender. I mean, I don't know exactly what that trade would look like with the Guardians, but I would say, if I'm looking at it from Jed Hoyer's perspective, having any additional avenues in which to make a trade and try to change up and shake up the roster is a good thing.
When the agent of Seiya came out yesterday and was talking about the outfield stuff, and we're going to talk about that in the next segment, I know, as you go to get Jed, the one layer to it that we were kind of hinting at in the first segment that I wanted to ask you about was Roki. So, the one comment that was made by
his agent,
Seiya's agent, was basically, listen, if he were being posted right now, I think that if he was being posted in Japan and teams were presenting to them the opportunities and they said, you could come here and be our full-time DH, I don't think he would have signed with that team. Okay. Basically, that makes, to me, there's two things I get out of it. One, he's saying he would have never come to the Cubs if he thought he was going to be a full-time DH, which we will get into. That's a whole other thing. Is it also somewhat playing to the, hey, you better be careful what you make Seiya do because Roki's listening? Does anybody else think that that's partially related? We know that the only path the Cubs have, you can't just pay the guy $300 million, Roki. So the only path to getting him to come here is to have something of a foundation for him. You're selling him Wrigley Field. You're selling him, you have two Japanese players that love it at Wrigley Field that are having a great time. Look how well Seiya's done since he came to the United States, and he loves Chicago. Look at how happy Imanaga is singing Go Cubs Go. But is Seiya's agent saying, now, whoa, if you think we're going to help you recruit Roki, you might want to rethink this whole DH thing. Is anybody else seeing that in that conversation? Am I the only one imagining that?
I'm not really thinking it in that way. You know, Joel Wolf, he's got a lot of clients in Major League Baseball. And I think the main thing is like, and maybe this is me talking, right? Like, I don't know his mindset, but like, I wouldn't use one client to leverage for another client, right? I would try to keep client situations separate. And that's just me, myself. I don't know how Joe Wolf specifically operates in that. So for me, I don't look at it as he's trying to use Seiya as leverage to the Cubs so that if they want to sign Roki. I don't really see it that way. I see it as his client wasn't happy being a DH only for the last month and a half of the season, and he wants to play in the field. And this is kind of getting out in front of it, I guess, and showing and telling, saying publicly, like, yeah, like Seiya doesn't want to be a DH. Seiya wants to play in the field, and may have to, or might be willing to waive his no trade clause in order to make that happen.
I don't know. It was the whole mention of the posting process that I thought got me a little bit reading between the lines.
Hey, you're reading the tea leaves on that. Well, you don't have one today.
I don't have a tea today.
I just think that's all overblown, personally.
I just think it's he meant it as like, because obviously Seiya got posted. If he's just saying if he were to get posted this season versus 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, whenever that was, then he probably wouldn't have signed with that team. I don't know. I think you're reading a little too much into it, but maybe you're right.
I guess we'll have to give
all these agents are lawyers.
We'll have to give Luke credit when he's right, unfortunately.
Jay Andrews says, Luke, you're on point. Hashtag credit to you. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate that. Meanwhile, Barb
Fair enough.
had a comment saying, have Cody and Braggs take Roki out for a night on the town. He'll love Chicago.
Brother.
I will.
Well, I mean, you already know all the Japanese restaurants to take him to.
Like, let's go. I think if I brought Braggs, that would scare him away. So, like,
well, just because he'd be limping around everywhere he goes, you'd be like, what's with this
We
guy?
could explain to him about the messed up escalators at
you don't want to go to Milwaukee, Roki.
Christian agrees with me.
I don't know. I just think the context related to Jesse Rogers' tweet yesterday wasn't great. And whether he did that on purpose or not, I'm not here to criticize that. I just think that there's a lot that goes into this entire discourse.
All right.
Listen, Carter Hawkins also said that they're willing to talk if people come to them, and I appreciate the due diligence.
Yes,
because as me and you have sat here and said, no one on this team is untouchable. So I personally don't think they're seriously trying to trade Seiya Suzuki.
Yeah, Ryan said it too. Call me maybe, All right.
Like,
give me my credit.
I personally don't think they're seriously trying to move Seiya Suzuki. If it happens, then man, the breaking news podcast we might break a record in views, and I'll sit here and be pretty shocked unless like the deal is like crazy. Like, or I'll be shocked in the bad way unless I like the deal, of course. I'm not here advocating to trade Seiya Suzuki. I'm not.
All right, Ryan, real quick, any other quick nugget before we hit this next break and set you free to go get Jed, because I know you're up against it.
No, I mean, like, I'm trying to remember exactly what. Listening to Scott Boras talking, there's a huge group of media, and I'm like in the back trying to listen to what he's saying, and I think the interaction went that he was asked about Pete Alonso, and that he said he'd had meetings with like 26 teams, and then someone said like, are the Cubs in that? And he said the Cubs would be in that, so something like that. So I'm not saying that means the Cubs are going to sign Pete Alonso, but I guess there's your rumor of the day, or I guess
it's a Bears town. Some pun.
He did.
Filtered in between a bunch of stupid puns that he said.
He didn't have a lot of puns today. I think he only had like one. And it kind of sounded like he thought about it off the top of his head.
All right. Well, if you, I know you're heading to go get Jed now. If Jed says something great, let us know and jump back on.
Sounds good, guys.
That's the great Ryan Herrera. We're going to talk more about Seiya Suzuki in a second, but first, more from our great sponsors. With Empire Today, you get to shop at-home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire today is the best place to get new flooring, so of course they have copycats. But Empire just can't be beaten on quality, service, and speed. So competitors then advertise low-quality products that Empire just won't carry. Empire won't promise you the lowest prices because anybody that's doing that is putting flooring in your home that they wouldn't put in their home. Empire's philosophy is help you find what you need, not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What they leave out of their selection is just as important as what they put in it. They also have a great virtual floor designer. It's a great way to see how new floors would look in any space. You snap a picture and instantly see how those new floors would look in your room. You can shop at the big box store for flooring, but that person you're working with might have been in the garden center the day before, working lumber the night before that. They might have been trying to sell drills the day before that. Listen, Empire, all they do is flooring. They live and breathe flooring. You can be confident you're getting honest, upfront advice. They also service their own warranties. If an issue does come up, just call Empire. They service those warranties themselves. You don't have to track down the manufacturer's phone number. So schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive $350 off. What a discount when you use the promo code CHGO. That's $350 off. Restrictions apply. See EmpireToday.com/CHGO for details. Did you know that ComEd can help businesses save money by becoming more energy efficient?
Wow, Luke, I had no idea.
Yeah, the energy efficiency program can help find up to 35% in energy savings.
Oh, so what does a business have to do?
All they have to do is sign up for that free facility assessment at ComEd.com/biz.
So why aren't more businesses doing it, Luke?
They're just forgetting the website, probably.
Unbelievable. It's ComEd.com/biz. ComEd.com/biz. ComEd.com.
That's it. Terms and conditions apply. Offers are subject to change. Actual savings vary by customers' energy usage and rate. The ComEd Energy Efficiency Program funded in compliance with state law. All right. We got a super chat I see from Robert Kiddenley.
Hopefully that's a good try on that last name. Good try.
For $2. Thanks, Robert. Another day of talking about the same thing. Nothing. Hey, Seinfeld did it for years, and look how successful they were.
Yeah. Seriously, just
look at us, because honestly, we've been talking about nothing for the last 4 months, really.
4 months, 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
3 years.
I will say
baseball.
I will say I'm looking at how many people are here live with us today, and I gotta say it's probably the biggest crowd we've had in at least a month.
How many are on there?
Yeah, but here's the problem: why are there so few likes?
Maybe
what are we doing here?
Are they mad at Luke?
Throw out the thumbs up and like. Probably mad at me. Throw out the thumbs up and like for a possible Kyle Tucker on your roster next year.
Come on,
please and thank you.
Now here's
I was pointing out how many people are watching. Because
how many are watching? I can't even see.
People are
215.
That's better. 11:30. I mean, it's a tough time too.
People are engaged into this. People are curious of what we think about this, but they're also they are getting excited about the potential of this roster being shaken up a little bit. Whether you are for it or against it, it's honestly this is what we all need. Like what Luke was saying, give us something different, a heartbeat. You know what I mean? And yeah, we'll see what happens. But
Jim's joining all the way from Rio de Janeiro. You want to say we're international? We're in Rio, baby.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jim, for joining in. He's in on Tucker. He likes that.
Let's go.
So, again, the news that started the day was that Ken Rosenthal said initial conversations between the Astros and Cubs for Kyle Tucker involve Isaac Paredes. They've mentioned the name Cam Smith, but also Seiya Suzuki, which goes back to yesterday's conversation where right after the show, Seiya's agent starts talking to reporters about Seiya wants to be a DH. We just did the thing with Ryan where he said basically if he had been posted and the Cubs would have said we want you to be our full-time DH, Seiya would have never signed with the Cubs. I have a simple solution for Seiya Suzuki, who I like. He seems like a very likable guy. He's a very good hitter. Seiya, if you don't want to be a DH, catch the freaking baseball. That's all you got to do, right? And his agent went on to say what a great outfielder he was in Japan. Let me tell you, Mr. Wolf, he's a crap outfielder in Major League Baseball. I like the guy. I like him as a player. I like him on the Cubs. Right now, he is nothing more than a DH unless he has to play right field. He is not a good outfielder. Now, maybe he fell off from being a good outfielder in Japan, and he's just not used to the ballparks. If I could count on my hand the number of times he's missed a fly ball or taken the wrong route and screwed something up in the outfield, he's not a good outfielder. Right now he's on a team that has Cody Bellinger, a guy who has a Gold Glove at the major league level in right field. Seiya is not an everyday outfielder right now unless he has to be because of his bat. Right now, he doesn't have to be on the Cubs. I want to play the clip that Marquis put out there. He was on their Cubs 360 show, Craig Counsell, yesterday. Okay? And then they put it out on Twitter as well. This is Counsell talking about basically the fact that Seiya does not want to be a full-time DH. I say that's fine, catch the ball. This is what his manager says.
Yeah, I mean, I think it happens. I think players want, good situations. And Seiya and I have talked about DHing last year, and it's a situation we ended up with as a team where it made the most sense. Definitely wasn't a plan, and I don't know if that it's a plan moving forward, but it happened last year because it's how we put our best team on the field. And that's my job to do that, and we'll continue to do that. That's right. If you want to be on the Cubs and you want to play right field, I hope you're spending every day this outfield in bright sun in this offseason, looking at bright sunshine and bright lights in stadiums at night, trying to catch fly balls. Whether it's off a bat, a jugs machine, I don't care. You better be working on your defense. Yeah. Because you're not a Gold Glove right fielder. Right. You're a good hitter.
Again, like I said, there's something that we don't know into why his agent said that. But nonetheless, you are correct. He got, my biggest thing on why I'm just confused is it's not like the Cubs didn't play him in right field. He opened the season in right field.
Right, and then he started dropping balls again.
He's opened in right field the last 3 seasons. So that's why I'm, confused by this. And you're right. Yeah, his defense was underwhelming this past season. And I've said on the show before, year one, you got to get adjusted to the ballparks. He had never played Major League Baseball, so I gave him a little bit of a break. Was it underwhelming in year one? Yes. I thought in year two it took steps forward. Everyone looks back at the drop ball in Atlanta and just says that that's what he was in 2023. I disagree. I thought he took steps forward in 23 overall as a defensive outfielder. But then last season, it was not good. I tried to be a little lenient early on in the season because, hell, even Dansby and Nico were fumbling the ball in the field at the beginning of the year. But Seiya really it didn't change for him in right field for as long as he got the chance out there. And listen, if this team isn't going to get more swing and miss in the starting rotation, then they need elite defense all across the field at most positions. And Cody Bellinger, it was the right move for Craig Counsell to play Cody Bellinger in the outfield in right field the last 2 months of the year. I think we can all sit here and agree with that. So, yeah, I mean, I think next year you can afford to play him in right field maybe 1 or 2 times a week. But, yeah, I think he's got to be in your DH spot every single day and for most of the time. And it's just a fact of the matter, man. I have concerns. I have a little bit of optimism that maybe he can bounce back in that position, but that's more hoping and wishing. Maybe if you upgrade significantly on the roster, I can be willing to risk it a little bit more with him out there. But as we sit here right now, I don't think anyone feels confident in Seiya's outfield defense. We feel great about his bat. I think you're too hard on him on his offense, but I get it because the home runs.
I think I'm impacted by the defense that just bothers me because I thought he was supposed to be a Gold Glove outfielder that his agent still is trying to shove down our throat.
Sure,
he's not.
But I do think, and it's your opinion. You're entitled to it. I'm not even hating on it, but I think when people complain about his offense, it's because the slug hasn't been there enough. He hit 30. He was noted as a 30 home run guy in Japan, and it hasn't happened at the major league level here in America yet. And I don't know if we'll ever get there. I think we also have put too high of expectations on the bat, too. We've been doing a lot of hoping and projecting, and it just hasn't got there. But at the end of the day, he's still a top 15 outfielder or, as far as that position in terms of offense, he produced at that level last year. So like I acknowledge that his offense is actually really valuable. Yeah, I'd love for him to hit more home runs, but there's one thing for certain: the defense, it definitely needs some work. So yeah,
I did say this winter that I'm to the point now that Seiya's defense isn't a Seiya problem, it's a Cubs problem, right? Like, he's given you enough sample size. That's why I wanted to switch earlier last season, because there's enough sample size to show you he's not a good outfielder. Now, the Cubs should have known that when they signed him. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the agent was feeding like, oh, he's this great guy and he's this great outfielder. Okay, he's a very good hitter. I really like him as a hitter. I really like him as a Cub. I like him as a DH. That's the most I've been behind Craig Counsell. That soundbite is the most I've liked Craig Counsell since the minute he got here. Not that I haven't liked him as a manager. That's him saying, you know what? That's great he wants to be a right fielder. Go ahead and work on it. Because right now the best thing for this team, and that's my job, is for him to be a DH. And I agree with what Matthew Gregory is saying in the live YouTube chat. That's the agent going out there saying, listen, he's got a full no-trade clause. So if the Astros want to go ahead and talk to the Cubs about Seiya Suzuki, they best know he's only going to waive the no-trade clause for a team that's going to play him in the outfield every day. He doesn't want to go be a DH somewhere. So buyer beware. If you're going to try and make the trade, you need his approval. And the only way you're getting his approval is if he's an everyday right fielder. Unfortunately, that knocks down some of the value for Seiya Suzuki if you're looking at trade value. Mm-hmm. Because every other team can go out and put out the highlight reel of drop ball and put the Benny Hill music going on. Dating myself, but you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody else can go out and see it too. Like, not a great outfielder. Would I still welcome him back on the Cubs next year? Yes. Just not playing right field all the time. Mm-hmm. And if you have Cody Bellinger playing right field very, very, very rarely.
Matthew says he agrees with you because he agrees with him.
That's right. Me. The best way to agree with me is to agree with you, to agree with me. How about the other oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that, like, I think with the discourse involved, I was very it got my brain thinking a little bit about the entire situation when Jesse Rogers went on ESPN 1000 yesterday to play the audio from his agent, and they were talking about he put out his thoughts or his opinion, thinking that maybe it is a leverage type thing, and that's just that conversation alone is the only thing that gives me a little bit of concern that he could be traded. I don't get trading Seiya Suzuki. I don't. And unless
it's for Kyle Tucker.
Listen, I'd love Kyle Tucker, but if you have to send Seiya Suzuki for Kyle Tucker, I don't think you need to send Cam Smith. And I don't think you need to send Owen Casey or Kevin Alcantara.
What about Triantos?
I personally wouldn't trade any prospects if they would only take Seiya Suzuki. I would not send any prospects. They could have. I'd send Paredes.
He's a cheap way to fix your third base problem.
I'd send Paredes and Seiya Suzuki. For me, I go back to what I said about Tucker, and Jed and his risk averse mentality. If that actually happens and it includes Seiya Suzuki, I'm going to expect that they will do everything that they possibly can, top to bottom, organizationally, to extend Kyle Tucker, because he's so risk averse that I don't think he would do it. So if it actually were to happen. So if you get the extension of a Kyle Tucker, then it's a fair
we're talking
trade.
about. Yeah. Noted hater William Workman is agreeing with Cody. How about this? Do we have some sort of alarm to go off that he usually disagrees with everything?
How about the 30-second Royal Fanfare?
He's disagreeing. That's nice. Yes. He usually now he's disagreeing with me. He's saying the Seiya Suzuki hate. He's not hate. He's a bad outfielder.
Yeah, he's not
a great hitter. He's a good to great hitter. He's a bad outfielder. There's a lot of them out there.
William said that he had 89th percentile arm strength. And I do think he has a good arm. If there's one positive thing about his defense, I think is the arm strength.
So when he goes to track down the ball in the corner.
I agree on the routes to balls and it's not just one drop ball. Like it's not just the drop ball in Atlanta. He dropped some balls last year too. Like it's when you feel nervous every time the ball's hit that right field and he's out there, like there's a reason for that. So
I will say that one of the reasons I think he was even worse in my eyes last year. Well, I was looking for it more. I just continue to look for it after stuff. But was also somebody in the chat mentioned PCA. Yeah, William. So does PCA. PCA makes plays that Seiya can't even dream about. So let's not put him in the conversation. I will say this. PCA is so wound up in center field that he can go get anything, that I almost feel like Seiya has become afraid of playing the outfield next to him. He doesn't know what he's going to get anymore. His routes were already bad. Now he's got this guy running all over the place to take fly balls for him. So he's even more confused in the outfield. I'll give you that part of it.
Yeah.
But if you're going to compare the outfield play of Pete Crow-Armstrong and Seiya Suzuki, there is not a person in baseball, professional baseball, that will tell you Seiya Suzuki is a better outfielder than Pete Crow-Armstrong. There is not one person around Major League Baseball or minor league baseball that will tell you that. Is that fair?
PCA is already making the case to be the best defensive center fielder in baseball already.
Is he perfect?
Not
yet.
Not yet. But he's already made the case with some of the plays he has made that he can be there going in even into next year. I feel pretty confident about PCA playing center field. Do I feel confident about Seiya playing right field? No.
I'm okay with it if he's hitting 30 bombs. That's fine every once in a while. But if you have a better option defensively, I don't care what he wants to play. He's under contract for 2 years. Yeah. He can either deal with it or wait to be traded and waive the trade clause. That's not unfair, right? Like,
damn right.
You're under contract for 2 years. You'll play where we tell you to play.
Yeah, for sure.
If Jake tomorrow tells me I'm doing the Bulls podcast or something else, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, you better.
You're going to be pretty sad about it.
And I'll be pretty sad about it.
Can you say the name Matas Buzelis?
Buzelis.
Little Boozy Verts.
I just call him Booze.
If Jake tells me I'm doing the Bears podcast with Braggs, get ready for a lot of freaking
That's gonna be long.
yelling.
Jake tells me I'm doing the Fire podcast next week. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Barb is Stucky doing the Bulls. No.
Oh, my gosh.
No, I'm just...
I think I need, through this conversation about what I trade Seiya for Tucker and all that, I think I need to take my own advice and just get uncomfortable.
Yes.
Like I just need to... It's hard to want to trade certain players. And Seiya, I think he's a little underrated by a lot of fans, but I also feel like he hasn't lived up to what we hoped he would too. But
at 38
at
million
the same
left,
time,
I got a good question for you.
Okay.
Hold on. I'm sorry to interrupt. Better question. Each guy has 2 years left technically, right? Bellinger can opt in again next year. Bellinger would have basically $60 million for the next 2 years, right? Seiya would be $38 million for the next 2 years. Which guy would you rather have on the team?
I think Bellinger can potentially bring you more value, but I think the question with Bellinger is, can his offense get back to somewhere in the middle between last year and 2023? I don't think anyone seriously thinks he can get back to 2023.
Is he worth an extra $22 million?
Well, no, it's $27.5 million.
Yeah. No. I'm just saying the difference between what's owed to each guy if Bellinger were to opt in. I saw somebody earlier in the thing saying, why would Bellinger's not coming back for another 1 year deal? I would. 20 mil or whatever it is, whatever million it's.
Well, I mean,
I would come back for that big contract. If it's an average season, heck yeah, he will.
Yeah. Yeah, if he has another season like last season, if he somehow is here. I mean, I still think they're going to move Bellinger no matter what. But
better defender, left-handed bat. At this point, Seiya's the better hitter.
Yes. Bellinger has the higher ceiling, perhaps.
That's
because he has won MVP. Seiya, we don't know.
Yeah, he's proven it more. But we're pretty far away from the MVP now.
I don't know if Seiya is more than what we've seen. Seiya is a good hitter. And this is like what I was going into before you interrupted me. Like,
oh, sorry.
I think that no, you're fine.
I was taking Ryan's. That was Ryan's job, and I feel
he's been a good hitter, a great hitter. But like, has he lived up to what we hoped he would be? Like, I don't think he has.
Not quite.
But I'm still a supporter. I still want him on this team. I still think that if you have Kyle Tucker on this team and Seiya Suzuki on this team together, that your offense in the middle of the lineup, like Seiya Suzuki, could take the next step. That's why I really don't want to include Seiya Suzuki in a trade for Kyle Tucker. If you're trading Seiya Suzuki for Kyle Tucker, then my guess is yes, they would keep Cody Bellinger. I hope. I'm not so sure about that, considering how much he's been in trade conversations. However, when the Seiya stuff first started coming out, it was my thinking of, if Bellinger's market dies and the Cubs aren't getting offers that they want, so maybe they're shifting. But again, I'm not there. I don't know. I'm not in those meetings. I'm just kind of trying. I'm going through the scenarios in my head. I really don't know. But I think that this offense could be really good if you have Kyle Tucker and Seiya Suzuki in the lineup. On top of, you're going to implement some of your young prospects. If you're trading Paredes, then it opens up a spot for Shaw, and you get to keep Nico.
Right.
Like, I think that's a better roster or a better lineup in 2025 if you have Seiya and Kyle Tucker in the middle of the lineup with Hap and PCA and the ceiling that
even
he
if
has.
Seiya's angry that he's the DH.
Yeah.
Maybe an angry Seiya hits the ball harder.
That's right. Maybe the wind blows out.
There you go.
Or they could still trade Nico and move Shaw to second, and maybe sign Bregman. That's Delulu. But,
it is Wild Thought Wednesday.
Delulu,
or maybe you trade for Arenado for a bucket of balls.
Hey.
I was going to say. Maybe the Cardinals just want to get rid of Arenado so bad that they'll do it for a single-A player. Super chat, another one from Robert, $5. He says, sorry if I came off as rude last super chat. Not at all. Didn't think so.
Robert.
But Luke is right.
Your name right.
I'll say that again. But Luke is right. If we want anything to change, got to shuffle the deck. That means
moving people.
Period. Love it. I mean, that's agree.
But I do. I mean, like Cody, you're saying. I mean, like, you can't bring one guy in and take one guy out. Like, can't we have both? Why do we need to? Sure.
Well, that was the whole problem with last year. Everybody saying, well, we have to re-sign Bellinger, which we all agreed with. But it was like, otherwise you're going to win 83 games again, and they won 83 games again because they didn't make that other move.
And then, me and Brendan are doing the breaking news podcast while I'm in Arizona for Bellinger, and I'm excited about it because I legitimately started getting to the point where I thought they weren't going to do it because it was in February. And then they didn't do anything else. And it's just like, it was disappointing. It left you feeling pretty empty. And I think Michael Cerami said it best when he came on our show when he was last on and said that 2024 was a wasted season. You learned nothing about a lot of players on your team. And now they're in a position where they really got to shake up this lineup, honestly. And they need to add pitching too. There's a lot of things to do.
Do you like Seiya and Tucker better than you like Bellinger and Tucker? Because I certainly love the combo of Tucker with one of those two players better than I like Bellinger and Seiya.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. I do.
That's fair. And I don't care about Paredes, so yes.
Yes. I don't care about Paredes.
I really don't.
We all really are down on Paredes.
Hey, that some team ought to be looking at it and say, we're looking to exceed projections. There's a guy that could do it.
Well, again, Paredes makes a lot of sense for the Astros with those Crawford boxes.
I was going to say the short porch and left.
And his Deadpool swing.
Yes.
He makes a lot of sense there.
A lot of value.
And he's young.
Cheap, too.
Yeah, he's cheap and he's young. He could certainly be very valuable for them. And that's,
you might have to give us Framber Valdez, too, now.
Now that I think about Cam Smith is part of that deal, like, I feel like getting a starting pitcher back would be nice.
Hey, so before we go today, I'm curious, did we spent a lot of time talking about different pitchers we wanted the Cubs to acquire. We started with Corbin Burns, not going to happen. The next guy, then everybody zeroed in on Max Fried. Fried to the Yankees, $218 million record contract for a lefty. Did it make you uncomfortable at all? It's not my money. It doesn't make me uncomfortable.
About Fried going to the Yankees?
Or the contract.
I said in our Slack yesterday.
Would you have been willing to see the Cubs make that contract offer?
Did you see what I said about Fried in the Slack yesterday?
No.
I once the news broke, I went straight to Slack and said Fried's going to the Yankees for $210 million over 8 years.
Yeah.
And I put like the laughing emoji, and then I said this is a joke. And I think some people took it or I don't know if I can't remember what anyone in Slack replied, but I took it as I was just annoyed that the Cubs weren't part of that. I understand that it's probably a massive overpay, but that's the price of doing business. And it's just not your money. And now, and would you rather overpay for a starting pitcher that's proven to be really good for a really long time, or would you want to trade prospects that you really like and potentially the future for someone in another organization? To me, in my head, it's it's why I get so frustrated with the fact that they're not being buyers at the top of the free agent market. I could get past Juan Soto, but the fact that they've never been in on Burns or Fried is just, to me, it's a wasted opportunity because it's just money for those guys. But if you're going to upgrade their starting pitching now, it's they got to trade pieces. And I just feel like there's more certainty if you were to sign a Burns or a Fried, especially when it's just money. But sure, yeah. Did he get a bigger deal than I think a lot of people expected? Sure. So congrats, Tom. You saved a few bucks. I can't wait to buy another $14 beer at Wrigley Field next summer.
I knew that was coming before the end of the show.
Let's go.
So that's just the way I view it. It's not our money, man. And he's going to go into a rotation that already has Garrett Cole, Carlos Rodon, Lucas Gill, whoever else I'm missing. It's a really solid rotation.
Oh, Uvalde's gone too. He's off the board too. Wasn't he the other guy that Lance Brozdowski wanted? Yep. Wasn't he I'm a Uvalde guy?
He's staying with the Rangers.
Yeah,
I was surprised he got as much as he did too. But I mean, he's been productive for a long time, and he's got playoff experience. I'm not surprised they just said, screw it, we'll give you this.
I was surprised to see the name Dylan Cease mentioned in trade rumors again. Why
to the Cubs, of course.
Yeah, well,
why?
What?
Someone in my Twitter space last night told me that Seiya was part of a trade conversation to the Padres for Cease. He was that's how the Cubs got linked or something. I didn't
say it for Cease.
I was in a
Sign
Twitter
me
space.
up on that too.
In my own Twitter space.
Sign me up on that if you have an overload of outfielders surplus. Cubs are only going to do it if they get a great deal.
Well,
Just get it done.
Cease is the same situation as Kyle Tucker. He's going into a walk year. Same situation. Josh Naylor, same situation. Again, take my own advice. Just get uncomfortable. Because this is the route the Cubs are choosing to go.
Get the goosebumps.
So, we'll continue to monitor.
Winter meetings. At least the rumors picked up. We have more rumors than we had last year. Still no moves from the Cubs, but we have more rumors than we had last year. Ryan may indeed be leaving, and I don't believe they even completed the deal for the catcher yet, correct? Unless Jed's going to announce that.
Carson Kelly,
yeah. Even that's not completed that we know of. Yeah. So there was a lot of conversations going on, but so far no results. We just want the results. We want a direction, and we want something that shows us you have a pulse. That's all any Cubs fan wants right now. If it happens today, we will join you with a breaking news podcast. We will jump back with a second podcast if there is some big second move.
Before we leave, I would just like to say too.
Yeah.
Before we leave, I would just like to say too that I'm happy that the chat has been very defensive, has been defending Seiya a lot, because I feel like I've had to defend him way too much over the last 3 years. So maybe some people are coming around. It's so funny how that works out when you're in season and people are like, oh, we got to trade this guy. He sucks. I feel like I've had to defend Seiya a ton the last 3 years, and now everyone's getting mad at Luke because he just said that he'd trade Seiya for Dylan Cease.
I would. So, 1 year of Cease for 2 years of Seiya, yes.
It's funny how that happens.
Yes,
Very funny how that happens. So
you would have your ace. That's for sure. All right, thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast. Back at 11:30 tomorrow. Until then, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And don't forget, fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.